it's a huge part of, you know, why any of this stuff with the ETs is happening, is for us to learn how to accept each other at a deeper level before we accept others, before we accept a different race of beings, and being open to the way that our species has to evolve. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Orphic. My name is Alyssa. I'm an astrophysicist. I have my PhD, and I'm interested in understanding how the universe works consciously, energetically. It's all alive, and there's so much more going on than what we see. The galaxies are conscious. A lot of things are happening, and I really want to understand the physics and the consciousness of the universe and astrophysics and combine all of that information together. So if that sounds interesting, please give me a follow on Instagram at interdimensional.astrophysics.
Hey, and I'm Mikayla with Mariposa Moonchild on Instagram. And I'm here to, assist humanity and raising our consciousness into love frequency and be a part of the healing that can get us there. I do past life regressions and energy attunements, energy medicine, and healing. And you can follow me on my page to check out more of that too.
Yeah, sounds good. So want to ground in first, and then we'll talk about how weird it is that we are in person together.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's breathe. Let's breathe through it.
Okay. So if you're able to, just close your eyes and place your feet flat on the floor. And I'm going to light a little bit of Palo Santo. My lighter will allow it, I guess. Okay, taking a second, close your eyes, put your hand on your heart. Let's take a deep, cleansing breath in, filling your lungs all the way to the top. Pausing at the top. And when you're ready, release. Releasing through the mouth. Let it go. Taking another big breath in, filling your lungs with that Palo Santo smoke. Holding at the top. Pausing. And when you're ready, release. Letting go of anything negative. Anything that feels heavy that might be weighing you down, and letting it go with the breath. One more deep breath in here, filling our lungs to the top. Pause. Feel your heart beating in your chest and the blood running through your veins. And let it go. Releasing anything and everything that's not serving you with the breath. And slowly and gently bring yourself back into this space.
We're in this space together.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. It feels really kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Sitting here, I'm kind of like, I don't really know where to look.
I'm like,
do I look at you? Do I look at the camera? I don't really know.
There's so many cameras set up. It's interesting. So, for anyone that's listening, me and Mikayla are in person recording together for the first time, and it was also the first time that we met in person.
Yes.
3 days ago.
Yes, which is crazy. So if anyone that has been following us long, you might know that we've never met in person. If you haven't listened to us before, we've met in person now, but up until this point, we had not met in person. We had become friends on the internet and started a podcast via Zoom and over the internet, and now we're here.
Now we are here. I thought it would be fun to like retell our origin story a little bit. So on the first episode of this podcast, so this is the 29th or 30th episode, I think.
Yeah.
But I think it's the 30th episode.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Over half a year.
Yeah. So on the first episode, we kind of tell a little bit of the story of how we got to know each other and like why we even started a podcast together. And yeah, like we've been friends for 3 years. So
Yeah, I guess so. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but
yeah,
it for sure has.
it's like
September, I think 2020 we started
yeah,
talking.
yeah, we started talking in September 2020. And just to retell a bit of the story here, it was in a Facebook group for a different podcast called Chatty Broads. And
Which is bachelor content,
yeah,
reality TV,
yeah,
nothing like our podcast at all.
It's all like we do have that connection on the reality TV front that we both enjoy
Yeah.
to an extent for however long it resonates right now.
Yeah. I don't really watch The Bachelor anymore, but
I usually do until recently a little bit. But yeah, and it was, it was funny because I think it's such a cool example of how speaking your truth leads you to your soul family and leads you to aligned people, because I was commenting something on there. I had recently unveiled some of the dark truths of the world, of the world, and of things with, just some truths of the world. And I think I was commenting on a post in that Facebook group and saying something about my opinion with this, and I was like really passionate about it, and I was like, no, you guys don't understand, blah blah blah. And then Mikayla Facebook messaged me, right? And you basically said like, oh, like I agree with you.
Yeah, something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what I said.
Yeah,
but I reached out anyways.
Yeah. You reached out. And then not long after, then we started talking, and then we realized
casually, and then I think
I remember it was the very first like interaction that we had that we realized we liked the same spiritual people.
We did. I think
because
Elizabeth April came up right away.
Because it's directly related to that, because all the things that I was talking about are directly related to like the massive spiritual awakening that we both, or like the next level of spiritual awakening that we both had in 2020. And so
we were going through huge spiritual awakenings like at the same time, uncovering the same types of truths. So I think we felt very seen by each other and like we're resonating, and it was also like a safe space to talk about those types of things, because not everywhere really felt safe for that at the time.
Definitely.
Still doesn't always.
Yeah, especially at that time, right? It still doesn't really. Not to everyone, but especially at that time, it was like, oh, nobody, it was hard for me to find people that were also unveiling the same truths and that agreed with me. And so it was kind of directly tied to some spiritual truths and stuff like that. We discovered that we resonated with the same spiritual people, and it was kind of on like an intense level of people that are talking about aliens and like, I don't know, just deeper things like deep truths. 5D consciousness, the basically the awakening. People talking about the Great Awakening.
The Great Awakening on many different levels. Like if you've ever looked at a Great Awakening map, it was all different types of things on there. I mean, from like conspiracy theory truths that came out at the time. There was a really great awakening that happened during COVID. As well as, what about ET contact, star seeds?
Right.
And just like 5D frequency, what that looks like, what that feels like, and moving into new Earth.
Yeah, just like massive shift in consciousness stuff. And obviously like part of just this whole new wave that happened in 2020 of awakening. So we were uncovering a lot of Great Awakening truths.
Just going through our own awakening.
Yeah. And so we connected there, and I think, we basically became friendly and talked on Facebook chat, Facebook Messenger for a little while. And then I remember we were asking each other opinions about the solar flash, because at that time, so this was like 2020, I remember a lot of people were prophesizing something special about December 21st, 2020. Right, and it's funny looking back in retrospect, because it's kind of, it's funny looking back at all the different stages of our awakening and like all the different stages of thought and like hype that I bought into and everything. And it's all like perfect, it was all the way it was supposed to be, but it's just funny looking back at it, like all the things that you get caught up in, because it was so new. Like, I'm a completely different person than I was in 2019, and you probably the same,
way
right?
different.
I'm a completely different person than I was in February 2020. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I mean,
way different.
It goes for most of the world, but it was just a lot. And yeah, I remember like when we started moving to Instagram, or we started talking more, you were like, I want to know your opinion about like December 21st, 2020, or like, I want to know your opinion about the solar flash stuff. And
there was lots of conversations like that about, I want to know your opinion, or how do you feel about just bouncing ideas back and forth, like kind of like a soundboard, because I feel like we didn't really have that in our life. I don't think to that extent.
Yeah, exactly. So. That's what it was. And then that's what our friendship literally continued to be. It was like, yeah, at that time, I didn't really have many other people. It was just spiritual leaders and thought leaders that on YouTube and everything that I followed. And then knowing that I resonated with them, and I resonated with the people that would follow them. And then like you appeared in my life as someone that does follow those same people, and I was like, oh wow, a like-minded person. And so that's basically kind of how we started talking, and then it just like snowballed into there. And
we just started talking. I mean, at first we started talking like a little bit, and then just like, more and more and more, until it was like quite frequent, and we were talking like every day. And then it got to the point where we were like sending multiple voice memos at a time to each other. And
we discovered the voice memo feature.
I
forget when that started. I don't know
when that started either.
I remember the first time that we FaceTimed was when you gave me a practice reading. I do remember that, because we had only texted and everything. And then I remember maybe like summer 2021, I think, you gave me a practice reading because you were practicing your mediumship stuff and just general channeling. And I remember that was the first time we FaceTimed. But yeah, and then after that, you gave me some readings, but at that point we were already pretty close. And and then it was your idea to start the podcast.
Well, we voice memoed about things like so much that it just made, and like they were like, I feel like really thought-provoking conversations that, and I feel like I listened to other people on YouTube or on Instagram, and whatever they said was really like DNA activating, or just like really made me think. And I thought that we were having conversations like that too, that could maybe somebody else would listen to and also like feel the same.
And we were both just like, it's like interesting because we were both in such a curious stage of everything. Well, we're like in the height of our awakening. We're curious. We're like we were like very much in these last few years, in these last 3 years, like in this absorbent stage, or maybe like the first 2 years of it. But now I feel like now we're just in a different stage of like, we are creating the information for ourselves, like we're learning still, but we're now, as opposed to like maybe 2020 and 2021, we're like becoming our own channels, and we're getting the information from ourselves. But you have to start, in that process starts with like finding people that you resonate and learning. And like, I learned so much from all the people online, and like, I'm so grateful for all those YouTubers and the spiritual people that I start off learning from. And it's like, it's built like my entire like toolkit of like, empathic energy things and all that stuff. But yeah, and then it's like me with the astrophysics, like I always knew that I was so curious, and that I was always going to be kind of on this this like hunt for knowledge and this thirst for knowledge, and just always seeking. And so I'm like trying to understand how things work, and I'm like finishing my PhD and like going through these like deep dark nights of the soul. And that's the thing, we were both in like really deep dark nights of the soul. Right?
Huge.
So it's just nice, like, we've both been through a lot in these last 3 years. So coming up in September, it'll be like 3 years since we've started talking. And we've both been through like so much. I have like realized addictions, quit addictions, like finished my PhD, like cried for 8 months straight. Like so much has happened, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a lot, and I feel like we've really supported each other through that. And from the beginning, we really, really trusted each other. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like I can tell you anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a really, it's just like safe
Yeah.
space as we're like going through these dark nights of the soul and this like transformation and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, we just have this kind of like unconditional love and trust that obviously kind of was a soul connection, and it was just kind of just cute. It was like just as soon as we met, it was just like, oh, we're just gonna like go through this together.
Yeah.
And we have been. And yeah, and it's like that's our fourth episode. We talk about this past life that of ours together that we had channeled by someone for us. And it's just the way that the karma is of our souls, it's like we don't have any like negative karma to be resolved in this lifetime. So it was kind of just like this karmic connection of like we just came together and we were just like, all right, let's just kind of be on our paths next to each other and hold space and stuff like that. So
Yeah. And I would say in a lot of the ways that were the same, like with being spiritual and curious, in a lot of ways we're different. Like you're very like brainiac and like kind of nerdy and like likes numbers and math and physics, and like all of that stuff makes me want to cry. And I'm very like, not that you're not like woo woo, because you are woo woo, but more like energy healing and just kind of like
yeah. To our duo, I bring more of the divine masculine energy to our
I have a
duo.
lot of divine feminine energy. I'm still learning how to balance the divine masculine a little bit.
Yeah, I need to bring in a little bit more divine feminine, but we're working on it. It's happening.
And also, if you couldn't tell, I'm not feeling great. My voice is a little nasally and I'm coughing a bit. So yeah, I'm still kind of in recovery. I feel a little lightheaded, like I'm in a dream. So I'm just gonna like do my best. In this episode,
showing
and bringing the energy.
Yes.
So
that's all right. You feel like you're like not on this planet.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like I could fall asleep like right now.
Oh my god, great.
Yeah.
Love that for us.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best though.
Yeah.
I'm still happy to be here, but I'm just kind of like, like, I kind of feel like a little high, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Like
when
you're like a little sick and you're like lightheaded, such that it feels like you're a little high.
You're just kind of like,
I've been there.
Kind of like feel like a cloud a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
We'll actually get high later, or at least I will.
Maybe.
But yeah, so we're making do with the energy that we have in our limited time together to record in person. But yeah, so then basically this trip for me to come, so Mikayla's in Canada.
Yeah, I live in Canada. I live up in BC, Canada.
Yeah, so all the way on the west side.
Yeah, and then Alyssa, you got the opportunity to come up here with your family.
I'm from New York, so I'm living on Long Island, New York right now. I've been in the
just so different from BC, Canada. Yes. I heard her talking on the phone, people that are in Canada, to her parents, and they have such a like Long Island, New York accent. It was really quite funny. I texted Bryce right away because it sounded like Long Island medium.
Yeah.
They're just like,
my parents are both from Brooklyn, both born and raised in Brooklyn. Yeah. And so they definitely have some like Long Island accents, and
yeah, it sounded just like a movie. Like a movie that we would watch.
That's so funny to me.
It was really funny.
Because that's just like my life. So I'm like, oh, I mean, yeah, a little bit. Well, like when my whole family was at my PhD defense, we all went out to dinner. One of the professors on my thesis committee, at dinner, she was like, I feel like I'm in an episode of Seinfeld. Yeah. Because it was like all the New Yorker accents, and then we're all sitting at like a huge table, and we're like, so much. And yeah, so I guess I'd imagine that's similar feeling when you heard my parents on FaceTime today. And you met them on FaceTime.
Yeah, I did meet them for the first time on FaceTime.
Yes. So yeah, so then so I'm in New York, Mikayla's in Canada, like opposite sides of the country, opposite sides of North America. And we knew we would meet in divine timing, and your wedding is next summer. And so I'm like, we wanted to definitely meet before that. And we knew that we would, but we weren't 100% sure when. But then the universe swooped on in and pretty much and super last minute, like a month before. This trip was only planned like a month before. My sister ended up wanting to come to Banff and wanted to bring me along with them and their family. So so I've been in Canada for 2 weeks now, and then we came out here west, so that's in Alberta, and then we drove like 5 to 6 hours west to come out here to visit Lucia and the horse ranch, which we have like many episodes on, linking awareness, energy healing sessions, and this amazing, beautiful, like vortex, powerful energy of this healing center, basically. And this, I can't even not describe it in like words. Go listen to the episodes.
Well, that connection is really interesting too, because Lucia and her Eagle's Eye Ranch is maybe like about 40 minutes from where I live in Canada, but I actually met her through you. It was Alyssa's sister that did Body Talk with her years and years ago, like in New York or something, or they're at a conference together and they knew each other. And it was Alyssa's sister that was like, Mikayla, you need to meet this woman. Like, she lives so close to you. You need to go there. Yeah. And since then I've gone there and had many, many experiences and gone back, and I've done trainings there. And we were just there yesterday with Lucia doing a session for Alyssa. So it's just, like the synchronicities and the connections are just really crazy.
Yeah, it's still so crazy to me that like Jackie is my sister is the reason that like it was part of this whole timeline shift for you in a way with this stuff with Lucia, because it's like so much, you're doing so much training, there's so much happening there that has completely shifted your life. I mean, and me too, and then it shifted the podcast, and we have all these episodes about it, and now I've been here and I've experienced it, and so it's just kind of crazy how it's all come together like that. So that's that. Basically, the universe literally like delivered me to your doorstep. So
you came to the ranch with your sister and brother-in-law and kids. Which
is like 45 minutes from your house.
Yeah, well, and it was also very interesting how it worked out, because at the time Alyssa got here, I was actually not at home. I was at a festival. I was at Shambhala Music Festival. And so we had people staying at our house with Newton Osa, and how it worked out is Alyssa was going to be at my house a day before we were going to be home. So she came here, did an introduction with the animals, and so she stayed at my house for a night alone before we got home. So when I got home, she was already in my house, and it was very strange. Not in a bad way, but it was the circumstances of how it worked out were just like wild.
Yeah, the circumstances were strange. It's not often that you meet your long distance best friend of 3 years with her already in your house for a day.
So like, I'm coming back, I'm like, this is my space, but this has been your space for a day.
I appeared at your house, and so we've been chilling the last few days, and we always planned on recording a bunch of podcasts, or as many as we could, in the time that I'm here. And but we know that we'll see each other again probably 1 or 2 times before your wedding next year. But it was definitely a little weird at first, like just the first day, but also you're coming back from this festival, and like you're in this whole different mindset. Like, I'm coming off of like 2 weeks trip, and like nothing feels real to me either. And so it was just like, definitely being with you in person, like the first day was just like my brain every 5 or 10 minutes, I was just like, what?
Yeah, and I feel like I would have been more like that, but my capacity was really like, so I was kind of just like,
you couldn't even like,
it is what it is, like, because I like,
we're really here.
Like the festival definitely took a lot out of me. Like, it's so much fun, but it's like, it's a lot, especially for me. Like, I'm someone who needs to like really take care of my body, or else I burn out really easily. So it's like, you're going in knowing that like you're gonna be really tired after. But then on the drive home, I started feeling like quite sick. Like I got a lot of dust in my lungs, so I was really like a lot of my sinuses. But then really woke up the next day feeling like body aches and chills, and I was like, oh no. Yeah. And then I've kind of been, my head's kind of been in this weird cloud sickness since then. So when I first seen you, it was really weird, but I was also like, well,
Add it to the list of weird
yeah,
things.
I'm still very much like processing everything that happened from Shambhala and meeting you and everything that's happened like before that. It's been like a very busy last couple months, honestly, for me. It feels like it hasn't really slowed down for a while.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
then just having the come down from the whole festival weekend and seeing you, definitely weird, but I think my brain was just like, it didn't have the capacity to like overanalyze it, so it just like was what it was, which I think was honestly a good thing.
Yeah. I think so too. There's only so much that your brain can process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
The only time we did smoke a little bit of like cannabis that night, and for a second I feel like I got pretty high.
Yeah.
So then I was like, because then like sometimes I can kind of get like really quiet if I get like really high. And then I was like, oh no, like, do I talk more? Do I not talk more? But whatever.
Yeah, I feel like the first night that I was here, I would oscillate in and out of like, so I guess my mind not processing like a whole music festival, just kind of a little bit more capable of trying to process how weird it was. I was like, I would oscillate like in and out of like, whoa, like what's happening? But also then, yeah, I feel like almost like more so after we smoked, we started getting into this conversation about Shambhala and about enjoying the music. And I was like, people just don't tune into music anymore and the frequencies and the dopamine. And it's just you're latching on to a frequency. And I just like got into this whole thing that basically felt like an episode of this podcast. And I was like, oh, this feels normal.
Yeah, that did feel normal. And I think that's what I kept telling myself too. I'm like, well, it's just Alyssa. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
I know.
This is who you would tell everything to anyways.
Yeah. That's what like the mental processing was for me. It's like combining the fact that like the person in front of me is like the person that has like I've trusted with like all of my life details for the last 3 years. Like every single, you probably know more than anyone else in my life, honestly. Like,
yeah,
you know a lot.
You know a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember even making that one comment to you. I'm like, does it like when we were eating dinner together yesterday, I'm like, does it feel like you should like in your like spare time be like texting? That was I felt like that, where I feel like I should be like going and like texting Alyssa and like tell her how it's going. Like,
I know.
Alyssa, but like it's her, so like I can't do that. But
I know.
I'm just like so used to it at this point.
No, that's definitely been a thing. There were a few times and yeah, like while you were resting or something, or I was like on the patio editing the podcast or something, and I felt like I should have gone to text you. I was like about to text you, and then I'm like, wait a minute, you're inside.
I know, I've had a couple of those moments too.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, so that's, that's a little bit about...
so anyways, we're here in person, so our first time meeting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy. But then I was saying yesterday, like in a few years or like in 5 years, we'll be like, remember when we like hadn't met in person yet? And that would be such a different phase of our friendship. Like, that's so weird when we hadn't met in person. Or remember when we met for the first time? Because I love your place, so I'll be here all the time.
Oh, thanks. That's good.
Yeah. And it was just funny, like, me being in your house for 24 hours without you, I was like, I feel so at home here.
Yeah, you did say that, which I was happy you felt that way.
I was like, I feel really comfortable. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I was just like exhausted driving home, coming off of this crazy weekend, and I was like, I can't believe she's in my fucking house. I was like, I can't believe she's in my house right now. I was like, that's so weird.
Yeah. And going into seeing the other half of the Orphic studio, like seeing where you record and your like little foresty backdrop and everything. It was just so like weird. Like, what?
Well, that photo was really weird when I seen the photo of like you, but then like the forest backdrop of like my studio, I guess, or my office. It was really weird to like put those two things together, because I mean, your world and my world felt like they existed very separately, because a lot of things as far as like how we live are like we don't really have in common. Like there's it's funny, there's so many things we talk about. Like I grew up in a small town, like kind of out in the farm. Like you're like New York City, like big city kind of vibes, just really different like landscapes. And it's just weird.
It's weird.
But even it was Oh, yesterday I was telling her about the houseboats and the shoe swaps.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she's like, what's a houseboat? And I was like, you don't know what a houseboat is?
Guys, chime in here. Does anyone from the US know what a freaking houseboat is?
Yeah, I wonder if they have like houseboats in the US. I would think
Comment
but like
below.
I don't know.
Comment below on the YouTube.
I know. I feel like Canadians, or at least like in BC, definitely know what houseboats are.
Never heard of a house on a boat. It sounds like a great invention though, and the pictures look really cool. So like, sign me up.
Yeah, anyone who's Canadian knows that it's basically just a party. It's a big, big party.
Yeah, that sounds fun. And it's been really nice getting to meet Osa.
Oh yeah.
Mikayla's rescue dog, Alaskan Malamute, or just Malamute. I don't know what she is. Yeah, she's
Alaskan Malamute. I think they're the same thing.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I didn't know if that was more specific. Yeah, and she's the cutest, sweetest, most precious soul ever, and just I love getting to bond with her. I love it. A lot going on there, but yeah, she's rough. Well, no, she's not. She's not rough, but it's difficult to have a rescue dog when they have a history, and dogs have their issues. It's hard being a dog owner.
Yeah, it is. And I think it is that she's so sweet. I mean, everyone that does meet her does love her because she is so sweet. She just has so really sweet personality, and and so you want to give her a good home and you want to give her a good life.
Well, let's talk about what we're going to talk about in this episode, which is I want to talk about the recent stuff in the news with the aliens.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, so say what was the recent stuff in the news?
Yeah. So just a few days ago, there was this whole thing that okay, like the UFO stuff in the news has been coming up a lot more recently, or there at least since 2023 there was something of the government basically admitting that UFOs exist, or admitting that they have like documentation of UFOs or something. And that on its own already like drove people a little bit like, whoa, what? They're admitting this? But then a few days ago, basically it was this US Congress hearing or something like that, or some whistleblower. But the whole thing with this was that they found from some like crashed UFO site, they found non-human remains. So basically
non-human DNA.
Yeah, I don't know about the DNA. Well, I mean, I guess they must have done some biological testing, right? I'm like,
non-human
right. A non-human pilot, I think, is what they said. Even like the pilot was non-human, basically confirming, because this is definitely like pretty new, or this is in terms of like the awakening and disclosure and all that's happening with this is definitely a big deal, because there's been talk about UFOs, but I don't think the government has ever admitted that stuff about like the aliens themselves, like finding bodies of like some alien being itself. So this was like a huge deal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because this was on the news that was saying this. This was in other random articles. This was mainstream media, mainstream news. That said, they're from a crash site. They had uncovered non-human biological evidence, which is wild, really wild
for them to admit. And
there's a lot of layers to it, which we'll get into.
But it's definitely such a big deal in the sense that people that are like, it's causing people that have never thought about this stuff, or that really haven't thought about it that much, it's causing people to think about it and question it and say like, what is this? And I think that there's also a bit of what's happening in the news that's trying to instill some fear because
Yeah.
of course why would there not be fear of the unknown?
I mean, it's a big deal that the government and the mainstream media is admitting it and talking about it. But the thing is, my question is, why now?
Yeah.
Why now? Like,
My question too.
because this information isn't really new.
No.
Like, the government has known this for a long time. Like since the 60s. Like, I actually don't know when, but it's been like a really, really long time. You can look up, like, what is it?
Bob Lazar.
Oh, Bob Lazar.
That's one
yeah.
of the one of the things. There's Bob Lazar there's a documentary about him on Netflix and how he was hired by the government to reverse engineer UFO technology.
Yeah, very smart man. He's also had a few episodes with Joe Rogan that have been really good.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen
And
him.
if you listen to him too, he's like a very, from what I found listening to him, like a very grounded, stable individual. He doesn't really have any type of reason to go out and say these things, or like make this type of stuff up. But then there's also things that have come out with the CIA. What is it, like Project Bluebeam? What was that? Yeah,
well, I don't know like what is I don't know what of Project Bluebeam is like known by is like acknowledged by the government versus like known by the people that like already know about UFOs and aliens or would be considered conspiracy theorists. But from my understanding, Project Bluebeam, like I don't know what's been disclosed about it and like what is just like hearsay. But from my understanding, Project Bluebeam is kind of this like this theory or idea that the government might might use hidden holographic technology. So there would be some kind of, they have some sort of technology that is able to basically like recreate a UFO in the sky or something like that. It's a holographic technology. And they could create a UFO in the sky and stage a false alien invasion to instill fear. So basically, that's basically what it is. It would be a false alien invasion to instill fear in the masses that they would create.
There's a few different, that wasn't actually the one that I was thinking of, but there's a few different, I think, projects as far as in the CIA and within the government. Like I thought one was maybe Paperclip. I don't know for sure.
Operation Paperclip. I've heard of that, but I don't know what it is. I've just heard of it.
But anyways, in the past, like up until this point, there was a lot of different projects or things going on. Like I know one was when the UFOs came down or the starships came down, if they crashed, like the government would go in, they take all the data or whatever they found to Area 51 or wherever they wanted to take it. And then they were studying what they found and they were trying to, like what Bob Lazar was doing was reverse engineer and try to get the technology for ourselves and study that. So alien starships, like I guess things have existed for a while. The government has known about it for a while and has been hiding it from us. Like they tried to silence Bob Lazar.
Yep.
He's had death threats. He's had people stalk him and follow him around, as well as many other people that have, like, if they've even just like seen a starship before, they've gotten threats.
Yeah.
And that's like, I mean, even the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. So I am very curious as to why now is the government allowing this to make mainstream media, because the news is controlled by the mainstream media narrative. Like it's controlled by the game players. It's controlled by the elitists. They choose what goes on to the mainstream media to be projected out to all of us. So what has changed, or what's going to benefit them from us knowing this information now, or for this information to reach the masses? It's very interesting.
And I feel like a few things. Well, the earth is raising in frequency, and it has been over the last, like, a lot more over the last few years. And I think that obviously it's part of the awakening and the rise in consciousness and everything. And I think physically the earth is getting to a point where, like, so much light is coming in that certain truths cannot be hidden for much longer, because I think I think there's a part of it that is like the mental curiosity alarm clock of people is inevitably going to go off because the consciousness, because the vibration is raising so much. It's getting to a point now or soon that it's like the truth is overflowing and they have to acknowledge some portion of the truth, because I think there's mass spiritual awakenings going on right now. And, you know, they did what they could with the C word. And I don't want to get whatever on YouTube. So we'll play it safe with that.
Well, I mean, the light illuminates the shadow.
Yep.
And that's happening at an exponential rate right now. It's kind of like, you know, 2020 happened, the pandemic happened. And since then, like, it's never going to be the same. The world's never going to be the same as it was before 2020. Like, sure, maybe we're not all in a pandemic for now. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but it's never going to be the same. We can feel it. It's different. There's a frequency shift. Things are different. Things are collapsing. Things are falling apart. Other things are coming to. Like, it's completely different. And it's not possible for us to go back there.
Right. Yep. It's so everything is different, and I think there's an extent of, you know what kind of just came to me is like, I think that the powers that be know that, like, when there's in this interaction, in this communication between the powers that be and the masses and the people, like, there always has to be some, even like the consciousness has to meet somewhere in the middle at some point. So I guess what I'm saying is, when the masses like overwhelmingly become desiring information about aliens and UFOs, like, in order for some symbiotic relationship to exist between the powers and the masses, there has to be a give there. Like, if there is, you know, I'm just kind of thinking of it in like a balance situation, or for them to exist in the same frequency range at all. Like, if the masses are desiring more information about the UFOs and are naturally starting to wake up to questioning like what else is out there, there has to be another response from the other side to like let things level out a little bit if they want to remain in control or like in power.
Yeah,
is the way that I see it.
Levels there. I mean, and I also want to say, like, don't, like, this is our experience and what like resonates with us from like our own personal experiences, and our own like connection. But yeah, don't like feel into what resonates for you. Like, don't take our word for anything. Like, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and like we don't know everything either. We're just speaking to our own personal experience and what resonates and our own like inner connection. And yeah,
exactly. So I think,
so what do you think's happening right now with?
I think that what I actually think is that it's the next control tactic. I think I think energetically there is like an overspilling of the truth, and basically energetically I think exactly what I just described. I think there has to be, because there's such a rise on the masses of increased curiosity, there has to be, if the powers are going to coexist with the masses at all, there has to be some acknowledgement in order for some way forward to exist with some kind of power dynamic relationship at all, and for each to not vibrate out of each other's reality is what I'm saying. But then so I think like energetically that's a bit of what's going on, but then in terms of like agendas, I think that it's just the next tool in their arsenal for control and for and also just like acknowledging and giving people something. So there's like, you know, there's two sides of it, but I think that there's a lot more I want to discuss on the individual level, because my opinion on this stuff with like talking about the powers that be and everything, I think that's a place to just observe from. You know, like I never get caught up in like whatever they're doing. That's a place to observe from, but we don't have control over what the government's doing or what the government's trying to tell us. All you have control over is your own energy and your own mind and your own curiosity. And so that's actually what I want to talk about, the perspective on there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a really interesting thing, because as much as you want to get into be like the government's doing this and the government's doing this and fuck them, and you know what, sometimes I really do feel like that. I really am like, fuck you. Yeah. Fuck the system. Fuck the patriarchy. Yeah. Fuck it all.
True.
But everything is, you know, happening divinely, just as it should, and there's just really things are accelerating into that frequency right now, and things are crumbling quickly, and things are being built quickly. We're in this really, really unique energy. I guess, yeah, even when sometimes fear tactics are happening, it's the awareness to realize what's going on instead of holding on to that victim mentality too. It's the awareness to be like, I can choose, I don't have to choose fear. I can choose love in this situation. Because as much like with these things happening, as sometimes as bad as it feels, sometimes these things are what is awakening the other people around us, and it is like part of the process. Yeah. There's the duality to it.
Yes, definitely. It's divine in the way that it's unfolding, and I think that I think it's part of the process. And like, so the way that I think there's a way to observe whatever the government's doing and whatever's going on with this like sketchy timing of disclosure or whatever they're trying to distract us from or whatever. But I think it's important to not get lost in that, because you don't have control. Yeah, you don't have control over that. And also, like, what? That's a dead end. Like, what are you going to do? Just like sit around like pondering like what the government is doing and why, like forever? Like, no, you got to live your life.
And live in a fear frequency. So like, having the awareness, but then being unattached to it, I guess, to let it go so that you can live your own life.
Yeah. And so like for us,
anyways,
in terms of, you know, obviously because we are already speaking on all of this stuff, and we both already talk about aliens and interdimensional beings, as I might call them more fondly. I don't know what word.
I'm not really resonating with alien as much either.
Yeah, no, like exactly.
Interdimensional beings,
right? But then that
ETs.
That require ET. I would say I resonate more with ETs or interdimensional beings. But you know, I obviously get a lot of people sending me these things, or I have friends that are asking me about it, or friends that are maybe we're not ready to know, we're not ready to saw me from afar talking about this stuff, but we're not ready to ask me about it or ask whatever I think about it. But now all of a sudden people are, and it's just like Mikayla and I were talking about this in the last few days, this stuff with interdimensional beings and life on other planets, like we came into this knowledge like a few years ago in 2020, right? And for us, or like for me at least, it was something that was
I would say it was a remembrance, not us coming into the knowledge.
Right, I was gonna say that. Well, it was coming into the knowledge because it kind of came from externally. In terms of the spiritual people talking about it, it came externally, but
it activated the remembrance that lived inside of us.
It activated a remembrance. And so instantly, like within a few weeks, I was kind of just instantly comfortable because with these ideas and with the fact that we are connected to these interdimensional beings, and they reside throughout the dimensions, and they're from other planets, and we have connections to them from our other incarnations and other planets. Because if you believe in reincarnation, and if you believe that our soul incarnates over and over again, Earth is not the only planet in the universe. There's plenty of other planets, and there's plenty of other dimensions of realms of energy and everything. And sometimes I so I feel like my body and my energy has been comfortable with this information for like a few years, but because it felt like a remembrance. And we were kind of just laughing the other day about how, I don't know, it's just kind of funny to me about how instantly, because I'm trying to put, this is the thing, with all this new stuff, like I'm trying to put myself in the perspective, in the mindset of someone that's coming upon this for the first time now and is freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, it's
because
freaky.
Of
I remember
course.
being there.
Yeah, because of course, and it's just, for me, it's like I don't even know how I'm so comfortable with these ideas already. I'm like, so when I take a step back, I'm like, wow, that's like, I don't know. I'm just like, it's crazy that I even am like, oh yeah, it's just this and that, and we're connected to them, and that's what I believe, and that's what feels right to me. And
there's a lot of depth to it too. Like there's a lot of depth and a lot of like intricacy to these like theories and concepts, like more than it may even just seem, like as we like talk about these things. And that's part of what our podcast is like over time or through our different episodes, us kind of like weaving and talking on these different things and seeing those connections form.
Yeah. And but like definitely from the, I try to put myself in the perspective of someone that's freaked out by this, or that it sounds ridiculous that, we're in communication with these beings, or that, why they would even be around us, or all these things. And so I'm trying to, I don't know, kind of just have that, I guess part of the reason that I wanted to talk about this on the podcast was this week was hopefully to, hopefully could draw some people that are curious. And obviously with this recently in the news, there's going to be a whole wave of uptick of people that this really catches their eye. And now this is the ripple effect of what happened yesterday in the news. People are going to be seeking. It just ignited a whole wave of people that are going to be actively seeking information on what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And that's what what we're trying to do is provide our own perspective of what we understand to be true from the last few years of feeling into this ourselves. And so that's kind of what I wanted to just do in this, for the rest of like this episode, or while we're talking about this, just like provide our perspective for those people that are curious and stumble upon this and then might resonate with this from our perspective. Yeah, well, I was going to get into like a few of the things that I channeled, or some of the points that I was kind of channeling before we recorded. We were both meditating, and I was talking to my guides and trying to bring in like what kind of key points would be of importance to highlight or mention with this. And again, like my intention, I feel like I'm trying to speak to people with a fresh perspective, or that speaking to anyone that is confused or scared. And the most important things, so I guess the most important, some points that I got,
sorry, I'm just like having thoughts that come in as I go. And they keep leaving me, but I was gonna maybe speak on kind of how I was thinking, and then we could like go to your points. Okay,
came back to you.
It's like it's like really weird. I feel like I'm like getting a lot of information as I'm trying to like think at the same time.
Things.
But anyway, so like with this information coming on into the news for everyone to see, like it can kind of go one of two ways too, because like in my opinion, there is an agenda behind them like letting us know, because they've had this information for years and years and years. So why let us know now? So one of two ways someone could react to it is either fear or love. Like, I mean, like I feel like those are kind of those. at like a very base level, those are kind of the either frequencies you're going to fall into, and then there's sub frequencies that those can be like broken up into. And it's really easy to go fear because this is really unknown to a lot of people. A lot of people don't resonate with it. A lot of people don't understand it. And a lot of people and that's the thing, maybe there's a lot of people that aren't ready for this information yet, but since the government has put it out there, they've chosen to put it out there, they're hoping like the people that aren't ready for it, they're just going to move into the fear frequency instead of into the love frequency.
That's such a good point. Yeah. That's such a good point. Yes.
And so that's why we want to talk about it. So yeah, like I feel like we could probably talk about this topic for a really, really long time. But when I feel into these interdimensional beings and I think about our remembrance, like for me, I've been living on the earth for a really, 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 really long time. But my soul is a starseed. It's like your soul is a starseed. A lot of our souls right now, if you're listening to this, you're probably also a starseed. Like we've been sent here to help humanity, and we've been sent from another planet. If you really think about this, and I know if you're listening to this podcast, you've thought about this before. If you think about the stars in the sky and the galaxies, and if you've ever seen a video that actually shows you the magnitude, and then like back to when we were in school and they're like, oh yeah, Earth by a fluke is the only planet that has life on it. And I just am like, I've had these thoughts when I was a lot younger before this stuff really hit me and resonated. Where I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like there's got to be algae on another planet. There's got to be a fungi. There's got to be a little caterpillar or something. And that would still be considered life. Or what about a plant? Yeah. Like there's somewhere, even if it's not in my solar system, or even if it's not in my galaxy, there's like, I don't even know the numbers, but there's like, how many galaxies? Like, do you know how many galaxies there is?
Trillions,
people.
Trillions of galaxies.
Trillions, and our galaxy is fucking huge. Like, how many solar systems would be in our own galaxy?
Billions,
people. Like I don't think the human mind can even comprehend a billion or a trillion.
No, you can't. There's so many stars, and you know, obviously, I've thought about this.
yeah. You've thought about this a lot. So
it's a vast, vast universe, and this is just one universe because there's probably multiple universes with similar things in them.
Maybe not for today, but yeah. But like when you just like think about that. But anyway, so it makes sense that there's other interdimensional beings out there that exist, and they also can exist in different frequencies. Like right now, the Earth is moving through this. Well, we're in this 3D frequency and we're moving up into this 5D frequency, but there's going to be beings that are higher from us in love in different dimensions. And then, they're also interdimensional, or more beings are more like, there's angels that are more like light beings, and they can really move in and out of the universe through like portals and dimensions. And there's a lot of layers to this, but then there is other beings that do travel in starships, and they live in different solar systems and different star systems and planets. And again, this is my experience, what resonates with me. Take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't. But there is other interdimensional beings out there, ETs, that exist in love frequency already. They exist in the 5D frequency already or higher, and they want to help us. They've seen what's been happening on Earth. And they've come here years and years ago, and many different beings have come to Earth because Earth is so rich in resources, and some beings have come wanting to take from that, and some have come trying to help humanity and help the Earth and make it a better place. So the Earth has gone through many, many different waves of like time and eras and periods, and now we're coming to a place where it's time for us to send into the new Earth, into the 5D frequency, into the love frequency. And a lot of these beings knew this long, long time ago, and they came here to seed their DNA and to bring their souls to Earth to help for this very moment in time. So there's a lot of things with that too. Like people say the different races on Earth are different types of aliens that have been hybrid into the human DNA. I don't know completely what everything is truth, but like that resonates and that makes sense with me because it's such an interesting concept when you look at, we have the indigenous people And then we have like, where did the white people come from? Like, where did the black people come from? Like, where did the Asian people come from?
There's no denying that the human race has a huge spectrum of DNA, and that it has a huge spectrum of looks that all fall under the human race. And it's how weird is it to imagine that that spectrum exists even beyond.
Well, then you get into blood type, because blood type is something that scientists don't really seem to know how to I don't know the right word to explain. Sorry, they don't really seem to know how to explain, because I think it makes sense that all humans would have the exact same blood type, but we have different blood types, and they can't explain why we have different blood types.
Right.
Some being, and some of them being really, really rare. Well, they were brought here from other places, and there's animals that were brought here from different starships and from different places, and so Earth is this really interesting melting pot. It's got this polarity of frequencies. There's a lot to Earth that we could go on for a really long time. But for myself, I know that I existed in a different frequency, in a different star system, and I came to humanity for a purpose, and I came to Earth for a purpose. And now I'm here in this life now speaking on these things. So it's when you hear about it, or you feel into it, or you connect with it, it's this connection to this like inner remembrance that comes up, and you don't really know how to explain it, but it just resonates, and you just know it to be true in your body and in your soul. And then the remembrance comes flooding back to you. They're like the remembrance of the past lives, or the old memories, or why you're here. Like, it comes back to you, and you can't really explain it much than the remembrance and just the deep inner knowing.
Yeah, like for me, the way that I would explain it is, kind of like what I was saying before, like how just learning about all this stuff with ETs and our connection to them and everything, and how just super quickly I was just like, oh yeah,
I was just like kind of the same.
Got it. Right, yeah.
It was very interesting, because it was kind of just like, it like exploded my world in a second. That felt so crazy, and like my reality was shattering when all these truths came up and these remembrances, and it was a bunch of different things at once, and it was a lot. But at the same time, I was like, this finally feels like how it's supposed to feel, though. Also, it's like, I always knew there was more. I always knew there was something, and now this remembrance of me have been cracked open. It's like, I know there's starships because I've been on starships. Like I know there's ETs because I've been an ET. Like I can see my body that I've had before, and I can feel what that was like. I can Yeah.
I feel like the incarnation route of explanation is one of the best ways to explain it a bit, because, if you just zoom out, and most people understand reincarnation, and there's a lot of people that are on board with that concept of how your soul has been many places and has been many things. And I just don't even feel like it's that much of a stretch to believe, if we believe that alien life exists somewhere, right? And if we believe that we have souls, and if you believe that in reincarnation, then of course your soul has incarnated on a different planet and has looked like a different being before. And because that's still your soul, you have a connection, you have a remembrance to that aspect of you. So that's why, if you're someone that is either coming into this information now and trying to see how it sits in your body, or has come to it in the last few years, and you find it like strange that you're so quickly like on board, like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, that makes sense. It's a soul remembrance that you have been these other things, and that they're not separate from you. And the other thing with the interdimensional beings, like you were mentioning it too a bit, like in terms of the different like ranges of energy, is like this is a big open area of the science, and it's something that I really want to explore, the dimensions. And we know, like, we basically live in the third dimension, but our consciousness can kind of range up into the fifth dimension, and there are higher levels of consciousness that exceed the dimension that we technically like physically reside in. And that's what we mean by interdimensional beings, because there are beings on other planets that might be carbon based like us, and might be as physical as us, but then there is a range of dimensions, and there's more beings that are more etheric, or kind of you know, it really is kind of just physics, and they're vibrating higher. So when you vibrate kind of out of, like, anything physical is dense. To be physical, to be in the third dimension is dense. When you like, just your pure soul is not necessarily physical. It transcends everything because it's such a high frequency. So this is like how you get to these like frequency scales and everything. And so that's when you say interdimensional beings, you're not only talking about beings that could be in the same room as you. You're talking about beings that could just exist etherically or energetically, or maybe analogous to like what you would consider like a ghost, or
or spirits, right?
Yeah, just like like a spirit.
We're just souls that are inhabiting a human body in this experience on Earth. And it's also something I wanted to speak to was like the capacity of the human mind, because it's been really interesting in this. It's like we only have a certain, like, the capacity of the human mind is quite small, relatively speaking. And it's been interesting because when it comes to this theory of aliens or extraterrestrial life existing, people will go to, well, we haven't, like, nothing else breathes air, or there's no other planets that have this type of atmosphere or have water to support life, or blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, it's weird how our capacity isn't able to like comprehend, like, what if the being breathes completely nitrogen? What if the being like, we don't know. What if there's elements that we don't, because we can only study the elements that exist on Earth or land on Earth. Like, what if there's other elements that don't even exist to us that are out there, as well as like our capacity of our consciousness only lets us go to the top of where our consciousness is. And how do we know that there's not beings out there that are smarter than us, that are 10 times smarter than us, 100 times smarter than us in their intelligence, in their emotional intelligence, in their love, like in their consciousness as far as the way they're living. It's just so interesting how humans kind of seem to think that we're at the top.
I know that life can only exist in the way that we know it. And my perspective from coming from academia and everything is like, you know, there's astrophysicists that are studying exoplanets, and an exoplanet would be a planet that's orbiting around a different star. So just a different planet, a planet that's in a different solar system, but still in our galaxy, because we can't study planets that are in other galaxies, but we can study planets to some extent that are in our own galaxy. And the people in the exoplanet community, they are studying, they're looking for planets that could contain life, and they're looking in what they call the habitable zone. And that would be some zone outside of the star that is similar to, that would produce the same conditions for life that we have on Earth. And I've always had this thought, even before I came to all this stuff in the last few years, like, who's to say that that's the only conditions that life can exist? Like, I'm sure that at another planet, Earth-like planet, maybe could have life that's similar to us, or have similar third dimensional life. But there's no reason that there can't be a different being that exists in fire, or all these things and all these different elements. So that was always my big issue with the way that astronomers kind of act like we're looking for life on other planets, or we're looking for life and they need to be the same conditions as ours. I was always like, we don't need to be looking for the same conditions as ourselves. And and then in terms of the alien ET existence and stuff, I think, just giving my perspective, like, from, like, and of what other astronomers tend to think, and surprisingly very close-minded. I'm very curious what all of academic astrophysicists are thinking about this alien stuff right now. Yeah. Oh man, I gotta go check the Facebook forums. Maybe I'll make a post. Just kidding. Oh my god. But astronomers really, they believe that life exists on other planets for the most part, but because we have such a deep understanding of how far away everything actually is. And I was just listening to a podcast it was like a Bachelor podcast of people discussing this. And this guy was saying, of people discussing this recent news. And this guy was saying basically the exact same thing that I'm saying now, is like, the common belief is that everything is so far away that even if that there is no way, that people are very doubtful that aliens could make their way to us, because everything is so far away.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next point, is why do we believe that nothing possibly smarter than us could exist or be more technologically advanced? Because if there's these interdimensional beings that are living a million light years ahead of us, think of the technology that they would have.
Exactly.
And I don't think traveling through time and space is really that far off. Like, it is, but it isn't. Like, I mean, we're still using fuel to get around people, like,
I know.
free, and we know on Earth already that free energy exists. It's just a matter of it becoming public and being used, and that's going to change everything. So then you think of beings that have already been living for like 3,000 plus, 5,000 plus, 10,000 plus years into the future, even more. Think about the technology that exists to them. Like, our human brains, we don't have the capacity to even understand it.
Mm-hmm. No,
but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist and that it's not real.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I had always said before this stuff that like I've always believed that if there were aliens around us, they did not sit in their spaceship for 100 million years or for 100 years and travel at the speed of light and wait, just like we're in the spaceship and we're traveling and this is the fastest that we can go. No, they figured out a way to bend space and time, and I'm pretty sure that's the case. And then there's also this aspect of telepathy in that we I might have just jumped a bunch of steps right there, but I know. But I'm just gonna say everything is connected in the universe, and just like mediums can channel spirits that have crossed over, just like a medium can channel your loved one that have crossed over, we can telepathically communicate with these beings that reside in different dimensions, these beings that reside in different planets. Like there's a connection, there's a connective point between all of us in the universe. So, there's that too, but that gets into some of the points that I wanted to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, with what's happening in the media right now, I personally think they want to be scared. I think it's a choice to choose if you want to feed into love frequency, if you want to feed into fear frequency. I'd also say that like what Alyssa and I are doing is we're building a safe space and a community for people that aren't really sure or feel or want to meet other like-minded people or know other like-minded people. So I mean, with that, follow our Instagrams and stuff, not to plug us, but like if you do feel like you don't have other like-minded people around you and stuff like that, that's why we are building this, and we want to talk to these things because we know it's not just us who resonates with this information and that wants to speak on it and has questions about it and curiosities and wants to bounce ideas off back and forth. So feel free to connect with us as well.
Mm-hmm. And the number of people that are connecting with that curiosity is just growing, and it just took a major uptick that's going to see a big ripple effect, I feel like, in a few months. I just feel like this stuff that just came out is just huge uptick of curiosity, and then that's going to lead people to information. It's going to lead people to the same information that we found a few years ago. It's going to lead people to our information, and it's going to lead people to, and again, the whole point of every time I say information is to see what resonates with you, and eventually to get to your own information of your own intuition.
So do that. And I'm going to say this really simply. I want to go over the hand on the heart technique for anyone who doesn't know it, because I want, if you're listening to my or our podcast or anyone else's, or if you're watching YouTube videos, at first it can feel very, why is that window open? Has the window been open the whole time?
What did you say? Oh, the window has been open.
Just because if the AC's on,
that's
very counterproductive.
True.
I didn't even notice it.
Oh yeah. Squeezing on in there.
Anyways, I think it's really important for each individual to decide what information feels right to them and what doesn't. And at first it can feel really overwhelming, and I don't want anyone to just take our word for how things are, because at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know everything.
No, we don't.
But this is a really simple technique where you can put your hand on your heart, and we'll do it right now. Alyssa, take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. Another deep breath. And now ask yourself, how does this feel in my body? Does this feel true to me? And just take those deep breaths again and feel into your heart and just learn to listen. And learning to listen is a practice. But if I can do it and Alyssa can do it, you can do it. So start using that technique when you're over flooded with information or things are coming in or you do feel fearful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And start feeling into that discernment into what feels right for you and what resonates with you. And the other thing I'll say about the starships is, we don't have to be afraid. There is many different beings from all different walks in different frequencies, but there is a lot of beings that are surrounding us now that are here to help. There's a reason we're moving into this 5D frequency and we have support and assistance and they're here to help. And we've been these beings in other lifetimes and we've connected with them and we've been on the starships and we don't have to be afraid, but at the end of the day, like, feel into what feels right and what feels good to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like what you said about like the fear and like you can move into fear or you can move into love with it is perfect, and it's so accurate, and it also is a good segue to like exactly all the things I wanted to say. But yeah, in terms of why this information is coming out right now, it's, you can move it into fear, and then the powers that be might capitalize off of the fear frequency that it could move you into, or the other option is having it move you into love. And so yeah, so basically when I was like tapping in before we started recording, and I was trying to get some main points of, really kind of asking, like, what do people need to know about why this is happening? And the answer was, that it's, well, the words galactic family kept coming through. So galactic family, and it's about, this is for many people their first opportunity to learn about how they are not separate from the entire universe.
Yeah.
We as humanity have been existing just in a bubble, right? Like, we have not acknowledged alien life. We've not acknowledged any of it. And as a result, we have had, for the most part, the illusion that we are separate from everything, the illusion that we are not connected to the cosmos, the illusion that life is just whatever on this rock and then we die. But the reason that this is happening, and the reason that this whole new wave, and this is not just news that goes away. We're moving into a wave of accepting and understanding that life exists beyond us. And the reason that that's happening is so that we can realize and so that we can learn that we are not separate from the universe. And it really truly is a direct reflection of our consciousness evolution, because how can we evolve in consciousness beyond the third dimension and the third and fourth dimension? The next step is realizing your connectivity, realizing how connected you are to everything else. And so galactic family kept coming through. It's an opportunity, or the reason that it's coming up is because this is the next phase of our evolution, is learning to accept others, is learning to accept the life that exists elsewhere, and learning and with learning of that life's existence, learning that we are innately connected to it, and that there is no separation between that life and us. That's our souls. That's our soul family. Those were your siblings, and those were your parents in different incarnations, and the interdimensional extraterrestrial beings that are around you that are of the love frequency. If you should choose to move into love frequency with this information, or with this new wave that's coming of all this stuff, the opportunity is in understanding that it's a connectivity. And like for other interdimensional beings, like there is not this veil of forgetfulness. Like other interdimensional beings, they all know that they're not alone, you know? And no, I'm not saying that humans are like the only ones, because I'm sure there's other planets where there's, I mean, I actually don't know. I don't know. I'm sure there's other planets where there's like, you know, you have to remember. But in terms of like, you know, other planets, like there's other examples of they were born already knowing, and they already know that they're not alone. We don't have that. We've been living in this bubble for the most part of this veil of forgetfulness, or this illusion that like, oh, it's just us, because it has not been in our reality.
It's a pretty complex like history of just like humans and the earth and how it's come to be. And I think that we're going to have to separately do an episode on that, and also feel into us connecting into the information that we get that's coming through on those topics specifically. But humans, when our part of being a human and part of the human experience and the human consciousness and the human brain is we don't remember when we're born. We don't remember all of our past lives. We don't remember. But that's part of also this evolution in consciousness is maybe we're moving into a new era of the new human, of the new brain, of the new consciousness, of the new body that's going to be different than that. But previously humans are born with amnesia and we don't remember.
Right. And, you know, part of this too, is this is also kind of like what I got before we recorded. Like part of this is accepting, and there's a lesson in here of accepting your fellow humans, because we need to get to a point where we are accepting of our fellow humans before we are accepting of extraterrestrial beings.
That's a really good point.
Like if we cannot love each other as a human race, how are we to accept the fact that others exist? And then how are we to maybe be open to, you know, collaboration or meeting our star family, or, you know, these things? It's all the core of this all is in lessons of acceptance and accepting each other's differences. Actually, that was mainly what it was. It's if you really like look around and, you know, kind of just acknowledging the range of DNA, the range of the DNA that we come in, and the range of differences and what we might call disabilities or on the spectrum or something like this. And it's about tapping into those differences. And can you tap under the hood of that? And can you actually see people for the soul that they are? And can you actually see that in spite of people's differences, that there is a pure intention under there? And it's actually about the fact that our souls have the ability to read other people's intentions. So it's learning how to take your energy, use your gifts, use your innate, it's just your ability as a soul, use your ability as a soul to tap in to the intention of another person's soul despite their differences, and tap into what's under the hood, to what's under there, and feel their intention, and feel if their intention comes from unconditional love or not. And not everyone's does, and that's fine. And feeling into that and learning how to accept others despite differences, people that process information differently from you, and there's different ways of thinking and there's different ways of looking, but it feels like it's about and that's why all of this is about getting back in tune with your own soul and getting back in tune with yourself, because you need to be in tune with yourself to be able to read other people's intentions and to be able to tap into the energetics of another soul. And it's about feeling it, it's about embodying it, and it's about feeling others' intentions and accepting them despite their differences. And
I mean, like, people that are different than us scare us. Like that's how we were raised. That's why kids got bullied, is because if you were different or if you were weird, you know, that made other people uncomfortable. Like you think of living in a small town or places that were really cliquey. Anyone that was different was outcast because it made the other people uncomfortable. So they didn't, if you open yourself up, you do the growth. So when it does come to the interdimensional beings and stuff, like it's going to be a lot different.
It's different. And it feels like it's a lesson in being entrusting your own energy body enough to read another's intention and to go beyond that, and getting into a brand new phase of humanity where we're purely like, where we are more in tune with our energy and we are able to read each other's energy and read each other's intention.
Yeah, actually, as you're saying this right now, I'm getting like a download, and this is probably what you got too, of the interdimensionals and the higher frequencies. Like their message to us is, before, like, they're gonna come and step in and help us with the evolution stuff, but for us to learn to love each other. Like we have to learn to love each other and have that open heartedness, that non-judgment, that unconditional love. Like, do you know what it means to love unconditionally? And like, it's an ongoing thing. It's a question to myself too, because like, like like real, raw, unconditional love. And like, what would that look like if you extended that and loved every person that in your life unconditionally?
Yeah. And that's also part of our transition into love frequency and our transition into living from the heart, and all our episodes about living from the heart. And I talked about how my version, or version for me of living from the heart, is truly walking around and looking at your fellow humans and just and having an unconditional love for them because they exist and because they're just as worthy as you are for being on this planet.
Yeah.
And it's a huge part of, you know, why any of this stuff with the ETs is happening, is for us to learn how to accept each other at a deeper level before we accept others, before we accept a different race of beings, and being open to the way that our species has to evolve.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can't move into New Earth 5D frequency if we can't love each other. And like, that's our first step. That's our first lesson before opening ourselves up to anyone else. And also, like, no one, like, they're here to assist us and support us, but no one's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. Right. You have to save yourself. You have to save yourself. No more victim mentality. Right. Same with like what's happening with the earth and stuff. It's easy, and I've been there, where it's just like, fuck this. Like it is scary sometimes, and it's like,
yeah, they're here to support us. But there is the other thing that I wanted to mention is that like these extraterrestrial, interdimensional species, there are laws of the universe that they must obey, and that they do obey, one of which is free will, the law of non-intervention, the law of free will. There are universal laws that beings have to adhere to, and that's part of the reason that there's no such thing as saving, because everyone has to learn their own lessons. If it would be immoral for any external being to come in and rob us of learning that lesson ourselves,
of our own experiences. And that's the same thing with our guides. Like our guides can't come in and help us unless we ask them, or we give them permission, because of free will.
Yes. Yeah.
Permission is important.
Yeah. The last thing that I wanted to mention of this topic, or I felt like, when I was tapping in before, something that's important is that for people that feel really overwhelmed by all of this, or for people that it's still very much in the process of entering, there is a, like, you know, think of it like, of course, for everyone, there is a path forward of having this knowing, or this remembrance, unfold within yourself at a natural pace that's okay for you, you know? So I kind of just wanted to say, like, there's no need to rush the way that this information comes in, or feel like you need to like control it or stagger it. I kind of just, like, the vision that I got was almost like a flower naturally unfolding, you know? Like, for every person, no matter when you're coming into your curiosity about ETs or your or interdimensional beings or whatever, like, for every person, you have contracted a way for this information and to unfold naturally within you, such that it will not short circuit you and it will not send you into, you know, madness or whatever. So I just felt like I wanted to say that.
I mean, I think it's also okay to know that it's okay also if it doesn't resonate or
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
it feels
yeah.
weird or
Well,
icky.
yeah, that's a given.
And it's okay if you do feel overwhelmed with it too.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like the acceptance of that in terms of like not letting whatever initial thing like freak you out so much about the way that it's unfolding. It just like what I saw is that like there is a way for this, whether it unfolds in someone deciding they don't believe in it and then they come back to it in 2 years, or they come back to it never and they decide in this lifetime they're not going to be open to ETs, like whatever it is, like for every individual person, like there's a way that these things are meant to unfold in your consciousness and in the way that you interact with the world and perceive everything. So I just feel like there is this like safety and comfort in that like there is a way for it to unfold in everyone. That's kind of what I got.
Yeah. And also, what can you do when you're feeling overwhelmed or this information comes in to support yourself? Because part of that too might be bringing you back to some of those practices, like utilize that, like meditate, like spend time with yourself and meditate, or do your breath work, or do your yoga. Like when you're feeling ungrounded or overwhelmed, there's a lot of information coming in. Do something to process the information. Journal it out. Journal your thoughts. Journal how you feel. Call a friend if you feel comfortable to do that. Like movement is great. Workout, yoga, breath work, like let your body process the information.
Yes, definitely. That's a good point, because when this information comes into your consciousness, like everything's energy, it goes into your body, and there is an energy that needs to be moved to help you process like whatever next stage of your awakening is for you. And it's also like okay if it's overwhelming and there's parts, like we've been through some intense stages in the last few years, and I've had some really, really ungrounding moments, and that's all right too. And so you just you move through them, and it's okay. But I feel like this is a really good discussion.
Yeah, I think so too.
And
I mean,
anything else?
Well, just if anyone has any questions or maybe something that we didn't touch on that they'd want us to touch on, or they'd want to hear more on, or our opinion on, like just like DM us on the Orphic podcast on Instagram, or I think send us an email too at
the Orphic podcast at gmail.com.
At the Orphic podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, message us on Instagram, leave a comment on YouTube, whatever. There's many ways to get in touch with us. And I definitely with questions or anything you want to hear us talk about, and we're gonna talk about this more in some upcoming episodes because there's a lot to get into with this. But overall, I really feel like what you said is one of the most important takeaways here, that like with all this stuff in the news and wherever you are on your path with it, like you have the choice of whether you want to have it move you into love or fear. And my perspective is that one way to have this move you into love as opposed to fear is to move you into this concept that it's a beautiful thing that we're all connected, and we're now getting access to that connectivity now, and it's actually a beautiful thing, and it's just an opportunity to have more love for people that are different, for aliens that are different, or for humans that are different. And I think that that's the way that I see it.
And I mean, we always have the choice. People get stuck in this rut of I have to do this. No. This is a really humbling conversation also too, to remember that we are on a fucking rock flying through space. Like when you zoom out and you think of it like that, like you have the power to make your life however you want. You're going to die. You're going to die from this human experience. Make it however you want. Think about how you want to spend it, the people you want to spend it, what you want to be doing for work, who you want to be around. Like think about those things. And then again, and you always have the choice. Every single choice you make, you always have the choice.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so thanks for listening. And welcome to our first in-person episode, and thanks for being here. I hope that, you know, if this, I do feel like this episode, hopefully we find some new ears, new eyeballs, new people.
Yeah.
So, you know, definitely check out our Instagram or check out our previous episodes. So my Instagram is at interdimensional.astrophysics. The podcast is at the Orphic Podcast. Mikayla, you want to plug your stuff?
Yeah, I'm Mariposa Moonchild on Instagram. You can also find us on YouTube, as well as please share this episode with a friend or anyone if you think that is also curious or would also like to know, or you think it might resonate with them. If it resonated with you, it also really, really, really helps us if you leave a comment and a review on our Spotify and Apple, as well as YouTube. So any of that really helps us grow and expand our reach, which we hope to do more and more as we continue.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.